If the mystics of every religion always seem to arrive at the same place, then why does official religion often seem to point away from that place? Well, I think part of the answer can be seen buried in a collection of texts that were purposely excluded from the Bible. In 1945, a farmer in Egypt accidentally discovered a clay jar buried in the ground near a town called Nag Hammadi. Inside were 13 leather-bound books, ancient texts that come from around the 4th century. Some of these texts are known as the Gnostic Gospels. Now, the Bible wasn't handed down complete from heaven. It was assembled by groups of people at a specific point in time, at a specific place, primarily at councils in the 4th and 5th century. These people made decisions about what should be included in the Bible and what should be excluded. But the Gnostic texts emphasized something that made everything uncomfortable for them, because it said that you do not need a mediator. The kingdom of heaven doesn't have to be accessed via authorized channels and rituals and institutions. It can be accessed here and now because it is within you. That's a difficult teaching to build an institution around, and that is perhaps why these texts ended up buried in a jar in the Egyptian desert. Now, the Gnostic texts do have their own cosmology. They talk of the monad, a source that is formless and infinite, and from here everything comes. The world of material form comes from here. And also a demiurge, which is a secondary creator that is responsible for the material world and also all of the flaws that come with that. It's a fascinating story, but I'm not overly concerned with the details of the story, in the same way that I'm interested in, but not overly concerned with the story of Genesis, or with the Hindu creation myths, or any other cosmological narrative. Because they are stories. They are told with a very specific purpose, and that is to help people who need images and narratives to remember the meaning of stories over time and across generations. What I am interested in is what these stories are pointing toward. And the Gnostic mythology is pointing toward the idea that there is a fundamental ground of being from which everything arises. And that ground of being is not distant or separate. It is the very nature of who you are. Now, I want to share some of what I found in the Gnostic Gospels that align incredibly well with other mystical traditions around the world. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "Make the two into one, and the inner as the outer as the inner, the above as the below, the male and female, into a single one." This is non-duality in one sentence, the apparent dissolving of opposites. This was clearly said in the Upanishads and in the Tao Te Ching and in the Kabbalion, and now apparently in the words of Jesus. When his disciples asked Jesus when the new world will come, when peace will arrive, he said, "What you desire has already come, but you don't realize it." Now, this is exactly what every non-dual teacher has ever said. They say that the awakening that you are looking for is not something to be achieved at some point in the future. It is right here, right now, when you stop looking past it. In the Gospel of Philip, it says, "Light and darkness, life and death, right and left, are inseparable twins. For the good are not wholly good, nor the wicked wholly wicked. Nor is life merely life, nor death merely death. Each will return to its primal source." This is exactly what it says in the Tao Te Ching, that being and non-being create each other. And the Kabbalion says it in its principle of polarity, the Hermetic teaching that opposites are not enemies, but two ends of one spectrum. And then here it is in an early Christian text. And then this from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. "All of nature, its forms and creatures are interrelated. All will be returned to their original source." In Buddhist terms, this is impermanence and dependent origination. In Taoism, it is the 10,000 things returning to the one. And in Advaita Vedanta, it is all forms arising from Brahman and then dissolving back. And then this from Paimandres, "Yourself is the Father. They're not separate. Their union is life." This is I and the Father are one. It is Atman is Brahman. It is the eye with which I see God is the eye with which God sees me. The same realization again and again. And finally, from the Gospel of Truth, when the whole went seeking for the one, from whom all come, the all was found to be the divine self, Almighty God, inscrutable, indescribable, supreme. There's a beautiful circularity in that, isn't there? Everything seeking the source, and then finding that the source is what it already is. So you can see the same thing keeps appearing. The unity beneath apparent opposites. The divine ground of being that is not separate from what you are. The self that is not a small personal self, but the awareness in which everything arises. I said at the beginning that I'm not so interested in the Gnostic mythology, the story of the monad and the demiurge and the complex hierarchy of eons and emanations. But I don't want to dismiss what that story is pointing towards, because it is pointing towards a fundamental ground of being. The same thing that the Upanishads talk about. They call it Brahman. In Taoism, it is the Tao that cannot be named. In Kabbalah, it is Ein Sof. In Australian Aboriginal spirituality, it is the dreaming. It is the fundamental ground of reality, the infinite and formless, that everything arises from. And what the Gnostics were saying, what got them suppressed, is that the ultimate ground of reality is not something that you have to access via a priest or a church or an institution. It is something that you can access right now because it is your very nature. And actually, you don't even have to look in the Gnostic Gospels to find non-duality. You can find it in the Bible itself. That's what I talk about in this video.